This is episode 7, and this is episode 4. I'm going to explain why episode 7 is not a rehash of episode 4, but rather a film that honors episode 4. Don't forget to smash the like button so we can destroy the YouTube algorithm. Quick disclaimer, I don't think the argument that The Force Awakens is a remake of A New Hope is a bad criticism. It is just a criticism that I disagree with. If you want to see a video of me talking about what I think is a bad criticism, then watch my video on the bombs dropping in space from The Last Jedi. So where does this criticism of a remake come from? Well, if you look at the basic plot structure, then the similarities are more than obvious. The First Order is basically the Empire, and the Resistance is basically the Rebels. A teenager who lives on a desert planet and is strong with the Force finds a droid with important information. A guy in all black is looking for that information. The teenager runs into Han Solo and Chewbacca, who helps deliver the information to the good guys. The good guys are threatened by a superweapon that recently just destroyed a rather important planet. So they send a bunch of X-Wings to go blow up the superweapon and succeed. But while on the superweapon, the dude in all black kills the mentor figure of the teenager. The end. So when you summarize the story like that, then yes, The Force Awakens just seems like a silly remake of A New Hope. However, this summary is completely unfair. For one, I just picked and chose the story elements that were similar and ignored the parts of the story that were rather different. Let's try something, shall we? I'm gonna summarize another movie in an unfair way and let's see how it goes. So a Force-sensitive boy who lives on Tatooine named Skywalker meets up with an old Jedi who has lots of knowledge. The two team up to help protect something that is very important from an evil force. After a long journey of saving someone of royalty, there is a big battle against a space station in the sky. The old Jedi is killed by a dude with a red lightsaber, and the Skywalker boy is able to blow up the space station with a starfighter because he is super strong with the Force. As you can tell by the video clips, I am talking about the Phantom Menace. So when I describe the movie like that, it seems like it's just simply a remake. So why doesn't the Phantom Menace get the same criticism that The Force Awakens does? First of all, let's be real. Starkiller Base is basically another Death Star. There is no denying that. So in that respect, The Force Awakens is much more similar to New Hope than The Phantom Menace is. But I feel the biggest reason has to do with aesthetics. While the stories of both The Force Awakens and The Phantom Menace are similar to New Hope in some respects, the aesthetics of The Phantom Menace are nothing like A New Hope, while The Force Awakens' aesthetics are very similar. The Phantom Menace had two new worlds that were nothing like we had ever seen before in Star Wars, while The Force Awakens technically had new planets, but they were very derivative of what we had seen before in Star Wars, especially the original trilogy. So yes, there is no denying that the visuals of The Force Awakens are very similar to A New Hope. But I want to shift the focus here. There is a big reason why The Force Awakens is very similar to New Hope, and it's the same reason why The Phantom Menace is also very similar to New Hope. And this has to do with the hero's journey. Now, if you don't know much about the hero's journey, then you don't really understand a huge pillar of the foundation of Star Wars. George Lucas studied the hero's journey before making the film. Basically, the hero's journey is a summary of the adventure type of stories. It's the same reason why The Hobbit or The Fellowship of the Ring are also very similar to New Hope from a narrative context. George Lucas knows what Star Wars is supposed to be. It's a coming-of-age story. And I know this triggers a lot of people, but Lucas has said numerous times, on numerous occasions, that Star Wars is for kids.
You know, it's hard for people to realize, and I'm not supposed to say this, and I wasn't supposed to say it then, but, you know, it's a film for 12-year-olds.
But it brings out the kid.
You might not like that, but it's the truth. A New Hope and The Phantom Menace are both coming-of-age stories that follow the hero's journey. J.J. Abrams decided to honor that foundation of Star Wars by making The Force Awakens also a coming-of-age story. So what are the aspects of The Force Awakens that honor the hero's journey? Well, let's analyze the film and the aspects of the hero's journey. 1. The ordinary world. Before the main hero discovers the new world, we must learn what the status quo is for them. In the case of The Force Awakens, the status quo is Rey on Jakku and her life as a scavenger. Number 2. The Call to Adventure. An event forces the protagonist out of the ordinary world. In The Force Awakens, Rey finds BB-8, which forces her to leave Jakku. 3. Refusal of the Call. The hero rejects the adventure and wants to remain in the ordinary world. Now this is one part where The Force Awakens really drifts from the hero's journey. Typically, this portion of the story doesn't last long. In A New Hope, Luke tells Obi-Wan he can't go to Alderaan, but his mind is changed only a few minutes later. In The Force Awakens, Rey's refusal to join the adventure is a major part of her arc, which lasts almost the whole movie. So this is one aspect where The Force Awakens really does deviate from New Hope and the hero's journey. Number 4. Meeting the Mentor. The hero meets someone older who will help them along their journey. In The Force Awakens, Rey meets Han Solo. 5. Crossing the first threshold. The hero leaves the ordinary world and enters the new world. In The Force Awakens, you can argue this is when Rey is either on the Rathtar ship or when Rey gets to Takodana, you choose. Number 6. Tests, allies, and enemies. The hero is confronted with the challenges of the new world. In The Force Awakens, this is probably the Battle of Takodana, where Rey is inevitably captured by Kylo Ren. Number 7. The Approach. The hero enters the dangerous parts of the new world. In the case of The Force Awakens, Rey is sent to Starkiller Base where she is interrogated. Number 8. The Ordeal. The hero faces a major challenge in the new world. In The Force Awakens, this is when Rey escapes from captivity and wanders around Starkiller Base. Number 9. The Reward. The hero has now gained the knowledge to complete the mission. In The Force Awakens, it isn't so much knowledge as it is that Rey gained an ally in Finn to help defeat Kylo Ren. Number 10. The Road Back. The journey is almost over, but it is a little longer than the hero thought. In The Force Awakens, Han Solo is killed, which prolongs the journey. Number 11. The Resurrection. It's the climax of the story, and the hero rises and has one last chance to defeat the antagonist. In The Force Awakens, Rey takes the lightsaber and defeats Kylo Ren. Number 12, and the last portion of the hero's journey, Return with the Elixir. The hero returns having changed as a result of the journey. In The Force Awakens, Rey returns to Dakar having changed her mind about being part of this fight. So that's the hero's journey. So while you can make the argument that a large portion of the story of The Force Awakens copied A New Hope, I would make the argument that the story chose to honor George Lucas and follow the hero's journey. If the whole ordeal of the hero's journey wasn't enough to convince you that The Force Awakens isn't simply a rehash, I want to dive deep into the narrative of The Force Awakens. In other words, what is the film really trying to say? I feel this is important to discuss because while The Force Awakens is rather similar based on overall plot structure, when you really look at the struggles of the characters and what the film is trying to say, The Force Awakens and A New Hope are really nothing alike. So what is the theme of The Force Awakens? I would say that the theme is all about facing the demons of your past rather than running away from them. When you look at the three main characters in this film, this theme clearly applies to all three of them. Let's look at Rey. The demons of Rey's past are her parents abandoning her. She believes that her parents must come back one day and she cannot leave Jakku. When confronted with this, Rey runs away. However, at the end of the film, Rey accepts that her parents are not coming back and she's ready to move forward. Now let's look at Finn. Finn's demons of the past are the First Order. He will do anything it takes to get away from them. When he's given the opportunity to help in the fight or to run away, he chooses to run away. Now, he doesn't really finish this journey until the end of The Last Jedi, but in the case of this specific movie, Finn overcomes his fear of the First Order and he goes to save Rey. Now let's look at Han Solo. Han's demon is his son. He feels like he failed as a father and ran away from his family. However, he eventually faces his son and ultimately gives his life so his son can eventually return to the light side. So when you look at the journeys of these characters and their arcs, it is nothing like those in A New Hope. So while there are many aspects of The Force Awakens that are similar to A New Hope, I feel those aspects are justified and other aspects of the film really emphasize the difference between the two. And that is why The Force Awakens is not a rehash of A New Hope.